Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over teams and strategy for the Umbral Nexus faction. So this is a bit of a weird event weekend in that this is the first time ever that we have had a repeat faction ever occur within the game for a weekend event. This is a little bit of a strange kind of situation, as it almost seemed like the patch was supposed to come out, which we kind of mentioned like on some of the previous Tuesdays, but I guess they caught up with launching Puzzle Quest 3. They'll finally be finishing today, the storyline, but I'm pretty sure that got pushed back, so it made the update get pushed back, so it basically made it, so we had this faction event. I'm not sure if it's going to be a reoccurring thing where we're going to be getting old faction events back. I know they're going to be adding more troops to some factions into the future, however, they didn't actually add anything with this. They're just doing an Umbral Nexus faction event again, but if you missed that out a couple months ago, they have it again. So as far as this location, it is restricted to specifically yellow and purple as far as what you need to use for it. The pathing for this place normally goes, you take these 2 rooms down here, or technically 3 rooms, you start there, take down all these, and then loop all the way around the circle until you have gotten to the boss room. That is generally how you're going to be taking this faction almost every single time, unless you're doing rush method, of course, in which you go straight from here to there. If you are going to be, or of course, as far as the amount of gems you should spend on this event, if you already have it maxed, it's probably a good idea to spend none or just buy tier 1. I'm personally just going to be going for just the tier 1 for that little bit of enchant potion there, just to kind of speed up the free battles. Of course, you do still get, because it's a 3-day faction, you still do get the 3 delves every single day. So you get 3 today, 3 tomorrow, 3 on Sunday. So you still have that going on. So you get 9 compared to a Tuesday event, which has only 3. So you do get quite a bit more battles there. However, of course, the reward system also goes a bit deeper. I do actually forget how far you need to go to get exactly all stages, but last I recall, it is tier 4. You would have to go to be able to go and get all of them, which is conveniently also where the weapon is if you happen to not have the weapon. So not only would you end up getting the weapon if you don't already own it, but you would also be able to get all rewards. But I personally probably won't be doing it and just going for basically the free battles just with the enchant potion, as I said. Not sure exactly how far that gets, but you'd still get some loot along the way. Looks like there's a vault key there, and of course a bunch of shards for when we might end up needing it into the near future. But if you already have 500 pure faction, it's potentially worth skipping. Leaderboard's also going to be pretty contested because, you know, it's going to be a decent number of people still going for 500, so probably not worth going for the leaderboard as well. It's pretty much, actually, look at how low the leaderboard is right now. I'm so used to this being like straight 500s. I didn't even look at this earlier. It is so low, but yeah, as is a lot of people doing. You can see they're basically going for all rewards, because I believe you have all rewards around like 230, 240 or so. So it looks like a lot of people are skipping out on the 500 because, of course, a lot of people just did it a few months ago. That's kind of funny, but yeah, I would definitely advise skipping. I know I personally am as well, since well, not completely skipping it, but, you know, just doing basically the free battles. But anyways, let's go and get over to the teams. Of course, this place is associated to Nexus, so if you still need to get those troops to get a little bit more stars there. We still haven't had a Nexus event since we had all that Nexus stuff, so hopefully they'll do that in the near future. End up predicting around summer, and at this rate, it looks like it's on path to be sometime in summer, because we still don't have one anywhere in sight yet. But maybe next patch will shed some light as to about when we'll get a Nexus Kingdom event, as we actually have not had one, even though we've had the faction event for the place twice, but we have not had the Kingdom event for it again, or, you know, since the pass thingy has expired. But anyways, as far as the low section, I believe most of these teams, if not all of them, are almost the exact same that I showed earlier. However, they just work, so it's worth mentioning again. However, now we have a bit more insight in them now that we have completely used them already. However, as far as this team, it's pretty much just a standard Guards, Avatar, Surquet, and Hadley. It's basically the Rowain when you can't use Rowain, since it's yellow-purple. You can't end up using the other armor buffer, so you just have to go into Guards, Avatar if you want to end up doing it that way. There's a cheaper team if you want to go do the earlier battles, though, that we'll be getting down to in a moment. As far as going through the place, you have option to multiple different insta-kills. If you just use those, you're going to be perfectly fine. You do have access to both High King, Iron Gut, and Zugoff if you happen to have both of them, so just using both of them, surrounded by mana accumulation, either with your hero or leprechaun, or double mana accumulation like this particular team is, or any kind of way that you want to end up doing it, will be perfectly fine, as a single instance of kill is already enough to wipe out the place, and just going double will just help speed it up a little bit, and just uses a really aggressive High King Iron Gut first slot, combined with a Zugoff surrounded by mana accumulation. If you're looking for something super cheap, you can end up doing a triple finesse into Nimbus Bow, or that one staff weapon, either or, that ends up boosting based on the Strixes that we have here, and the whole whole main premise here is that these gain 6 mana to all allies every single time you cast them when there is a Yellow Storm. We have Perpetual Yellow Storm off of the Stormcaller hero class. It also counts as a Strix. Every single time you keep spamming extra turns, you can scale up all your stats across your entire team. This gives you 12 stats per time they end up taking an extra turn because there's 3 of them, and that gives it to every single thing on your team. So if you're doing the later battles, you can scale up a bit and then do that, and then you just keep pressuring it with a bunch of damage, and you have basically an infinite loop if they don't mana drain you, because you're getting 6 mana each time, which means you're going to get 12 mana after casting 2, which means you're going to have 12 mana, which is enough to have 11, and you just keep casting Finesse until you win, and you throw Nimbus Bows here and there, mostly if you just need to get the team rolling, and because you're mostly just throwing Finesses until you win in most of the battles. And as far as Pure Faction is concerned, this is actually the exact one I went with. However, there are some things I kind of want to mention with this, because I believe when we did the previous video, I have not actually done the Pure Faction yet, whereas now we have. So Pure Faction 500. One thing I noticed is the Wisps, of course, have Stealthy. And this is a bit of a good and bad thing. The bad thing about this is, as far as spell damage is concerned, due to their lifesteal, they're basically the tankiest thing on your team when it comes from the enemy casting against you. The big issue that ends up occurring here is because they have Stealthy, your other thing tends to get targeted a lot. So for example, I would not advise going 3 Void Wisp with something else, like maybe an Umbral Portal, because then your Summoner will end up getting killed. One alternative is, well, there's 2 main teams I would say is pretty good for running this place. Double Umbral Portal in the back with double Void Wisp in the front. So basically 2 of these up front. Basically this right there, and then the other empty slot down there would be another Umbral Portal. This makes sure if one of your Umbral Portals died, which did happen to me when I ran this exact team, that you would still have a Summoner. It did live to the final battle. However, on the final battle, it was the very first thing to die because the AI was either going to target Lightborn Paladin or Umbral Portal, and they just decided to target Umbral Portal every single time. That wasn't too big a deal because it was on the final battle, and at that point it didn't really matter too much if we had resummon. Would have still been nice, but like it didn't matter as much because you mostly wanted to make sure if you lose something going up to that point that you can end up replacing it. But it is a factor, so you might want to go double Void Wisp, double Umbral Portal if you find this to not work. However, this is what I did it with, and it seemed to be perfectly fine for the most part, other than Umbral Portal getting aggressively focused by AI, because in this particular team, any targeted is going to go to either your first slot or your last slot in this particular setup. Lightborn Paladin, really high mouse score reduction, 40%. It's also low enough rarity that you should be able to fully metal and get even more durability. On top of that, also has even more durability off of its ability. However, you generally do not want to actually cast this ability. It's mostly just here to tank. It is not here to cast. Your main goal of winning is just keep doing Void Wisp. It steals a bunch of life, meaning it does true damage. It also gets to steal some mana from them and magic, so you could do a little bit of a mana drain poke to keep pressuring them down. One other team that I actually forgot to mention, you can get away with 4 Void Wisps. That's the other one that you can kind of get away with. 3 is a little bit sketchy because they're just going to target whatever the non-stealthy thing is. But 4 you can, because then they're going to distribute the damage evenly. So that is one other strategy you can end up going. So double Void Wisp into double Umbral Portal, this or 4 Void Wisp. However, this is the one I advise using the most personally. But those are the 3 options you basically have. But yeah, you just keep mana draining them, make sure that they don't end up casting their ability. If any of them are getting close, you just keep doing that. You can also just focus all in on whatever the biggest threat is on the enemy team, just kill it out with true damage, and then they're dead. And they're basically never going to get a cast the entire time because you're just constantly mana draining them. So really good at keeping down whatever the biggest threat is. You also get to get a extra purple from these things. You are creating a little bit of color here and there. The most important one, of course, being the purple, which is one of the other reasons why Void Wisp 4 times can kind of end up working. It's a bit of a cheesy build, but at least you don't have to upgrade as much. Plus, he's the lowest rarity thing if you do want to fully metal it, so it has that going for it. But you would end up getting a 4 purple spam per turn if you went down that route, which is the other thing that kind of makes it useful. Anyways, aside from that, we do have an Umbral Storm, which is pretty convenient. Umbral Storm specifically makes those little yellow-purple stars, which, of course, your entire team is generally going to be primarily based around, given that this is a yellow-purple restricted kingdom, or faction, I should say, and it just ends up creating some Umbral Stars off its ability. The most important thing, though, is the resummon. It's the whole reason why you put onto your team. It's mostly just a backup plan to make sure if things start going bad, you have a way to not die. And that is basically a rundown on the faction. But yeah, as a leaderboard would kind of suggest, not really worth doing beyond like all rewards or even just completely skipping. The rewards for just doing the free ones, you're going to get a lot of shards and stuff along the way. I would still advise doing it because you're getting a 2x multiplier the entire time. It's one nice thing whenever faction events do come around. And if we do start getting a lot of weekend faction events, if you want a lot of shards in a pinch, it could be a good way to go about it. Because, for example, like right here, we're getting a 2x multiplier and we're taking out a really easy faction. However, if we were to go, let's say, let's go find one that I can do as an example. Right here, you might notice if I go do, let's say, right here, this is a easy to clear out faction, however, the Deep Hive. However, you may notice the multipliers that we have here are 0.5 if I do it on 50, or a only 1 times for whatever reason when we do it on 500. I mentioned this in the beta before this feature even existed, factions, and they still to this day have not fixed it. But you might notice room treasure multiplier 1 times. We're currently on difficulty 500. So if I wanted to keep repeating doing battles in the Hive, I would only be getting a 1 times multiplier on the loot and have to be slowed down quite a bit. You can still use insta kill options, but still they're still slower on 500 as well. But we'd be slowed down slightly on here. And only be getting a 1 times multiplier. However, one benefit of these repeat factions, as well as doing Tuesday factions in general, but particularly for repeat factions, is you get a lot more battles that you can end up doing, all on a 2 times multiplier. So you might notice here, we're only on 20, but it's a 2 times multiplier, then it'll be 30, 40, 50, so on and so forth. However, that entire time, it will keep the 2 times multiplier, meaning you're going to be getting quite a bit more loot than you're normally going to be getting. This is technically only a 1 times difference in the sense that, you know, if it reaches 4 times, we're talking a difference of a 3 times compared to a 4 times, so it's not like it's double the loot, but you are getting more loot than you would be if you were to be doing it by pretty much any other means. So really good if you need to just get more shards or any of the material that exists within the underworld drop table, which are mostly like legendary ingots, mythic ingots, and most importantly shards, but you also get a decent amount of gold and other resources along the way. So that's like the main reason why you would end up doing it. Definitely not for leaderboard. If you still need a 500 pure faction, obviously you can do it. If nothing else, at least you'll get a pretty good leaderboard position, unlike normal, because normally it'd be pretty overflown with people. But since we just had Umbral Nexus a few months ago, and a lot of people already did it, and it's a repeat faction for the first time, shouldn't be as hotly contested compared to normal. But anyways, guys, I'll end up leaving it there. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Best of luck if you will be going for pure faction. It's not one of the easiest pure factions, but it's definitely on the easier side of pure factions, mostly because that one Void Wisp is really good at not losing. You could arguably, actually, on the final battle, my team for the final battle was double Void Wisp by the end of the fight, and that's literally all I needed, which one of the other reasons why I said 4 Void Wisp. You could probably get away with it if you really wanted to cheese it that way, because the final battle did ultimately just come down to having double Void Wisp, which was pretty funny. So definitely a really strong option, the cheapest or lowest rarity option too, so should overall be pretty straightforward. Just keep mana draining them until they're dead, and you just keep getting those true damage pokes out. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and hope you have the best of luck with the faction. Goodbye, everyone.